I've only had one moment that I can recall very clearly in my 21 years of being sober that I came close to entertaining the idea of using drugs or drinking alcohol. And I was in Thailand on this tiny little island called Ha Tien. I was training Muay Thai kickboxing, and I was on this little island, and I had been away for 3 or 4 weeks now. This is in 2007, I think, right before I was to get married, probably like 6 or 8 months before I got married. And I was reading Anthony Kiedis's autobiography. I think the book is called like Scar or something like that. And in the book, I was in this little hut by myself on the island. I was depleted. I was hungry. I had been training so hard Muay Thai. And Anthony in the book starts to articulate his relapse with heroin. And heroin was the last drug that I was really addicted to. And he starts to talk about it in such a like detailed way. The way that he wrote about the high was just like so real for me. And out of nowhere, I just started feeling the obsession kind of kick in for using. And I knew that there was drugs on that island. I could smell hash at times. And I just knew if I wanted to get drugs there, I probably could have easily. Anyway, the obsession started to kick in, and I started to feel really uncomfortable. And so I knew that I had to do something. And for me, that something in those days was get on my knees and pray, read my big book from AA, do what they tell you to do when these things happen. And so I opened up the big book. I started reading the big book, really didn't do much for me. I got on my knees and I prayed for probably 20 minutes, a half hour. And I just kept on asking God to put something in my path to get, to relieve me of the obsession. Please don't allow this obsession to turn into a relapse. Just please put something in my path. Please put something in my path. I need some help. Please put something in my path. And so when I was done praying and I kind of felt like I was ready to take action in some way, I was like, all right, I'm going to get out of the hut and I'm going to walk down to the beach and I'm going to go take a dip in the water. And maybe, there was always these like Thai women that would give these big Thai strong women that would walk on the beach and they would give Thai massage for like $3. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll, run into one of those women. And she gave me a massage. They typically were like an hour. And, I definitely felt like the obsession starting to subside. And I should just point out that like when you're, there's a difference between obsession and craving, right? Like the hardest thing for addicts to get through is the obsession piece. Craving doesn't happen until you actually take a sip of alcohol or do a, drug. Once you do it, it's almost impossible to break the craving. The craving gets so strong. But obsession, you can fight through. Obsession is all willpower, and what I now know is the will of God, right? When you turn your will over. But I was just kind of like, I felt like the obsession started to subside a little bit. So after the massage, I started walking back towards the hut. And then I heard this like really obnoxious laugh. And I was still kind of thinking that maybe I can figure out a way to like get my hands on some hash because that's what I smelled on the island. And I started walking back to the hut and I heard this obnoxious laugh and I saw that there was like a fire pit like 100 yards away. And I knew that laugh was kind of coming from there. So I was like, I don't know what drew me to it, but I was just like started walking towards it and I was getting closer and closer and there was people sitting around a fire and there was no Americans here. Like there were people from Europe there, but it was mainly like foreign people, a lot of Thai people, of course, but it was a small island. It wasn't a lot of people. And I certainly didn't, run into any Americans. Anyway, I got closer and closer to this thing, and I saw this guy with dreadlocks. And he was the guy that was laughing, and they were telling stories. Anyway, as I got closer, I was like, I know that guy. I just felt like I knew that guy. And I got over there, and I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I was like, I think I know you. And he was like, yeah, you do. We met outside of an AA meeting in your first like 30 days of getting sober, and we had a cup of coffee together like 2.5, 3 years ago. And I was like, you have no idea how you just saved my life, man. Like, you have no idea that I literally was going through hell all afternoon. I asked God to put someone in my path or something in my path, and it's crazy that you're standing in front of me right now. We hung out. He actually wasn't sober anymore, but that enough was enough for me to just kind of like be like, wow. Like, I prayed hard, and that happened. And that's not where the story ends. So, I spent a few hours hanging out over there, and then I went back to the hut and went to sleep. And I didn't see, his name is Sid. I didn't see him again. About 7 months later, I was getting married, and my wife is Danish, so we were in Denmark. We were getting married there. And it was the day before we were getting married, and we were walking through Copenhagen, and I was terrified. I was terrified because the thoughts going through your mind. I was young. I was like 26 or 27 maybe. When I got married, I was 27. And that's kind of young to get married, like in this day and age, growing up in New York City, like you don't just get married that young. A lot of people don't get married that young. Anyway, we were walking through, and I was shitting in my pants, scared and nervous and feeling like I'm about to commit to this woman for the rest of my life. Out of nowhere, this guy rides a bike, because everybody's on bikes in Denmark, rides right past us, basically like brush shoulders with me. And I stopped, and I turned around because I felt like I like recognized him. And he turned around, I turned around, and sure enough, it was Sid, the same guy that I ran into on the island in Thailand, same guy that I spoke to in the first month of sobriety. I looked at Donna, I looked back at him. He was laughing. I was like, oh my God. And I said, babe, I gotta go spend some time with this guy. And she was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I'm telling you, this guy's like my guardian angel. Like, I need to just go, give him a hug, maybe grab a cup of coffee with him. And so we did. So I told Donna, like, just give me 20 minutes. I'm going to go sit down and just have a cup of coffee with him. I had a cup of coffee with him. And I said to him, I was like, dude, like, who's sending you? Like, who's sending you here? And he was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. But whatever you're doing, it's working. And I haven't seen Sid since, but you could chalk that up as coincidence. I asked God to show me signs, sprinkle some, signaling into my life. And it doesn't happen all the time, but when it happens, it's hard for me to not think that that's real. And, and there's so many more times in my life where like things like that, when in business, right? Like in business is so hard, man. Like business is so hard. Small business, being an entrepreneur, it's so hard. And there's so many moments that I can point to in my career where I was like, damn, this is it. It's over. It's over. Like, and I continue to pray, and it's just never been over. It's never gotten to the point where I've had to be like, oh, that's really it. It's always worked out somehow, some way. And I think my relationship with God is it's a little piece of my life in terms of how much time I put into it. on a daily basis with my prayer practice, my meditation. It's a little sliver of time in the grand scheme of things, but arguably the most impactful, because I didn't have God in my life before I got sober. I just didn't. I didn't have God in my life at all. I never prayed. I never thought about God. And as soon as I started putting God in my life on a daily basis, everything got better. Everything just got better. And so, again, right, you could chalk that up as, you know, Mike, you got healthy, you started doing the right thing, you started networking. Really, the one thing I've done every single day without fail is prayers and push-ups.
If you like content like that, get stoked, because we're going to be dropping a lot more content like that over the next few months. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. And if you're struggling with addiction, I can help. Pop over to @SoberFitDude on IG, shoot me a DM. I've kicked off a coaching platform that is specifically for men struggling with substance abuse.